For more than 2 decades, we've been educating our listeners about financial topics that are most important to you. Do you have enough money to retire? How will you keep from running out of money? What's your plan for managing market risk? What about taxes, inflation, and healthcare? Each week, we talk with an advisor at Lucia Capital Group about these issues and more. This is Managing Your Financial Future.
Welcome back to the podcast. This is Managing Your Financial Future. Johnny Dean, your podcast host. Rick, the Professor Plum, certified financial planner professional, accredited wealth management advisor, and waiting on the next designation. Rick, you told me what it was last time, or you were working on something. Did you figure out what it was?
I haven't done it.
Okay.
Considering doing it.
Well, if you do that, just let me know, because then I got to change my cheat sheet, which I've had here in my hand for the last few years. Anyway, welcome back to the show. Happy to have everybody here. You know, when you get right down to it, I was thinking about this. The main goal of financial planning, as I see it, the main goal of financial planning is pretty simple. All right, to make sure that you have enough money to last you through your lifetime. Now, yeah. Some people is going to tell you. Some people will tell you that another goal is to make you richer than anyone else, but that's not planning. If you're doing
I think
nothing,
Elon's kind of set the bar a little high for the average person to get richer than anybody else.
Yeah, right. I mean, I'm not even. You know what? This is true. I'm not even a billionaire yet, Rick. Much less a trillionaire.
Loser, slacker.
Right?
Get a real job.
I am way behind the curve, apparently. But, you know, trying to achieve the biggest rate of return, you know, Rick, that's rolling the dice. That's not that's gambling. But so I was thinking about this, that there are 3 main risks that a financial planner should help you deal with. And Rick, you can agree or disagree with this, but I think you're on board here. The 3 main risks that a financial advisor should focus on are living too long, dying too soon, and then getting sick along the way. Does that kind of sum up your priorities to a small degree?
Well, financial planning is basically about risk management, and those are the big ones. Those are the biggies.
Right? Yeah.
I mean, dying too soon is actually the easiest one to cover, assuming you're not chronically ill to begin with. Living too long is a tough one, though. And getting sick, it depends on the sickness and how chronic and how long-term that can be. But, yeah. Those are not easily, but those are, I should say, more easily covered by insurance.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about this. Any of those 3 things that we mentioned could happen to you. And since you really have little or no control over whether they do happen to you, I think we need to look at the risk management side. Now, a few months ago, Rick, we did an episode about the one risk that most retirees are not prepared for, and that had to do with long-term care. And, of course, that is a risk. It's one of the 3 I just mentioned, of course, getting sick along the way. So if you got that covered, there's a way to do that. You're in a little bit better shape. But I don't want to discount, well, there are the other 2, especially the one about living too long. And that's really what I want to talk about. I think, as you said, most people are aware of the dying too soon risk.
Dying too soon, Rick. Yeah, people have been worried about that one too.
That's right. Yes. You just said that kind of stuff is covered by insurance,
or can be. Unfortunately, not everybody does it, and it really screws up things when there is. And this is going to sound weird. When there's an unexpected death. Now, is death ever expected? Unfortunately, yeah, it is. Sometimes when you get certain diseases, it's kind of expected, but. I just know people that, especially younger people, that live spending everything they make, and they're living real well. They got the nice house, the cars, and all that. But if something happens to one, or even if there's 2 breadwinners in the family, if something happens to one of them, that lifestyle goes out the window unless they have some insurance. But they don't want to spend the money on the insurance. And realistically, term insurance is fairly inexpensive. If you're healthy.
Certainly for young people,
yes.
Young and healthy. Now, okay, so that can be covered, but for some reason, I think the opposite risk is oftentimes not considered. What if you live too long? Now, I know that sounds strange, but you saved, you planned your retirement budget, assuming you live to only, 78 or even.
Well, the old 30 or 4% rule, it assumes 95-ish. If you retire at 65, because they're dealing with a 30-year life expectancy. So if you retire at 65, that takes you to 95. And the reality is that covers most people.
Well, it does, but you know what?
You may be that outlier, and Murphy's Law says you'll be that outlier.
You may not be most people, and you could still be alive and kicking at 98, 99. And, it does happen. And even if it doesn't, if you did not expect to even live to be 90, things happen. Now, your nest egg, of course, has a finite amount of funds in it, and here you are, you're drawing from it long after you thought you would. So let's talk about this today, Rick, how you might be able to mitigate the risk of living too long. One of the three.
My grandfather made it to almost 102.
Yeah.
And as he was getting into his 97, 98, he decided, well, one of the ways he was going to bolster his investment nest egg was he finally sold the motorhome he'd been driving cross country every year. He said, I'm not going to do that anymore.
At what age did he stop driving this? Was it like 94, 95?
96.
Oh, okay. Well, I won't say anything about that.
He was doing very well. He was still doing very well. But anyway.
So
people are different. I know some very old people at 65, and I know some very young people at 85. Just the way they act and do things.
Well, and you could live to be that long. So let's talk about some of these things. What would you say? What's the first thing that you'd consider when you're talking to somebody about dealing with the risk of living too long? What would you consider first?
Well, the strategy first. And I would want to know, am I talking to somebody who's going into retirement or somebody who has been in retirement for 20 years already and is watching their portfolio fall apart? So for people that are just transitioning into retirement, it's all about the upfront strategy, doing it correctly, avoiding sequence of returns, not being greedy, doing appropriate value averaging, taking money off the top when you're way ahead, taking opportunistic issues if the market drops 20, 30, 40, 50%. It's all about the strategy and also discipline of spending. If I've got somebody who's getting ready to retire, and like this call we got on the air, we talk about them quite often, called and said, I'm getting ready to retire, I've got $300,000 and I need $30,000 a year and I can't budge on either one of those. Okay, that's a problem. That you are going to have a big risk of running out of money taking 10% a year out of a portfolio because you're only going to get about 12 years worth of distributions out of that. And then you're going to run out of money or so, maybe 13. But that only takes you to like 78. That's not even life expectancy anymore for people that are 65 years of age. So who are we talking to? Are we talking to the 85-year-old who is spending X amount of dollars because of life and things, and they potentially going to run out of money? So one is looking forward and doing appropriate strategic planning, and the other is reactionary. What are we going to do to shore up what's going on? And so a lot of this comes down to what is it that we're trying to accomplish. Yeah, like I said, for the people that are getting ready to retire, that's all a matter of let's do the right thing going forward. Let's see what your spending is. Are you in line? Is your retirement plan feasible? And then most people that we have retiring now that we're talking to. Now, I'm not going to say most people out there are this camp, but most people that we're talking to own a home or have a home that they've owned for a little while. They may still have a mortgage, but for some of these people, using a reverse mortgage can help. I mean, that is, a lot of people end up being very house rich and cash poor. And so one of the things that can help, obviously this can take away from the legacy they leave, but hey, you got to do what you got to do to live your own life. The reverse mortgage is a way to give yourself, use one of the biggest assets that you have that for a lot of people doesn't do them a lot of good. And a lot of times we do see that as a last resort or a way to buoy things up, or as a ultimate emergency, because we see people that have a nice house, even if they have a mortgage, by the time they're in their 70s and 80s, the mortgage is down to maybe 20 or 30% of the equity value, and they may be able to feel a lot more comfortable if they just get rid of that mortgage payment, or if they get rid of the mortgage payment and then have a little more assets. I mean, they're the greatest things in the world? No, they're not cheap, but they work. So it's not a matter of, should you or you should never have one. It's a matter of what are we going to do for that 80-year-old that has unfortunately had things go on in their life that took away their ability to retire the way they wanted to, that maybe weren't even their issues. I mean, I've seen things derail retirements that you could never have thought of. Obviously, health issues are part of it, especially health issues with one spouse, but then the other spouse is super healthy and lives a lot longer, but they've spent all the money caring for the one that unfortunately passed away. That is a problem. I've seen it where parents in retirement inherit grandkids.
Right.
Because the kids were killed or whatever, and they didn't plan well enough, like that couple I was talking about earlier that didn't have the appropriate life insurance. And now it's on the grandparents, to raise the kids and pay for the grandkids. And that was not something that was in their expected expenditures when they retired,
right.
8, 9, 10 years before, or whatever the case may be. So yeah, life happens. And so are we reacting to negative life issues that happen later in life, or are we planning for it ahead of time? And so if we're planning for it, that's much easier to deal with. If we're not there yet, we can make reasonable assumptions of how to make sure that we don't run out of money. There are contracts that will guarantee you lifetime income. There are investments that give you guaranteed lifetime income that you can never outlive. So between the guaranteed income from your pension, your Social Security, and some of these other contracts, you got a baseline that you can never outlive.
Well, and this is
doing appropriate planning with your pension, doing appropriate planning with your Social Security can help that longevity issue.
Yeah, and the guaranteed lifetime income is one of the things that we have talked about in the past. And for whatever reason, I mean, people like Social Security, obviously. I mean, it's coming from, a guaranteed source. People like pensions, those who have them. But the other one, do we mention the A word? Yeah.
The annuity. Lifetime guaranteed income. The annuities out there are the only investment that can guarantee an income. Now, the insurance company is guaranteeing it. I'm not guaranteeing it. But no other investment can use the G word. Only the annuity can. Only the insurance company.
Right. So when we talk about that, I mean, I've heard people that, well, if you really want to, take care of longevity issues, wait till 70 to claim Social Security. I personally think that's a lot of bunk. But
it helps if you can wait.
Well, that's just it. If you can wait, and you're not guaranteed to make it until 90 whatever.
83.
Or 80, I'm sorry, 83. You're not guaranteed. You're not even guaranteed to make it till age 70. So, and that's part of the problem here. So when you're dealing with things like living too long, the X factor is you don't know how long it's going to be.
We don't. That's the problem.
You could die at 66 if you're 65. You could die the next week. Or you could live another 30, 35 years. And this is what makes this such a challenge. But if you start with something like some guaranteed lifetime income source, perhaps outside of Social Security, which oftentimes, isn't necessarily enough. You kind of have to dig into your portfolio like that. Or if you don't have a pension, I mean, this whole annuity thing can potentially be something that people could turn to, even though a lot of people have heard bad things about them.
Well, there's lots of bad things to hear about them, mostly because they're sold inappropriately. And they're used as if they're these great rates of return and these most wonderful things in the world. There's no disease they can't cure. There's everything about them is just gold. And no, that's not the case. They're a contract, and they do what they're supposed to do when they're used appropriately. So unfortunately, there's a lot of bad press because they were sold incorrectly. It's not that the product was bad. It was used in the wrong way. But for somebody who is looking for that particular, and you should never put, and this is one time where I am going to use the word never, you should never put 100% of your money into any one contract. I'm sorry. It just doesn't work that way. But we see people, if we had somebody come over just the other day, we were talking to them for the first time. They have a portfolio. They're not going to put 100% of their money. They have about $1.2 million, and they're retired. They're in their late 70s and early 80s. They have absolutely no need for this $1.2 million because they have pension, Social Security, and cash flow from paid off real estate rental properties that is, in fact, they're building this 1.2. They're adding to it because they have so much cash flow coming in from these other sources. And they wanted to know about a specific annuity. Now, this was not a lifetime income annuity, because it had a 20% bonus. They wanted to put $600,000, half of their portfolio, into this annuity because it had a 20% bonus. She goes, I'm going to make $120,000, day one. I go, okay, let's read the small print here. When can you have that $120,000? You can't take it out the next day. They said, well, I can get 10% a year, and if I don't take any for the first 3 years, I can take 30% in the third year. I said, yeah? Read the fine print. Does it include the bonus? Nope. Yeah. You can't get that money for 10 years.
Here's the thing. I think some people believe that if they want to hedge against living too long, that they've got to greatly curtail their spending early on. They've got to do what they can to keep their money from running out, which obviously is the first thing that they're going to be thinking about. But, Rick, is the better question...
Well, they also think they can't take any risk with it because they don't want to lose it.
Well, yeah, which can be a problem over a 30, 35-year period of time as well in some instances. But is it better to ask the question, how do I build a plan that can work either way, whether I live 95 years or 5 years? You said immediately planning was the very first thing that you said. And I address that, if you would.
Right, planning. And what we were talking about is, people are so afraid that they'll run out of money that they don't want to take any risk or perceived risk with it. And so they invest their entire portfolio very conservatively in CDs, treasuries, things of that nature. And that basically means you're never going to get any growth out of it. But that also assumes that you're going to spend all that money in the near future. So the reality is you need to identify. We talked about this a couple weeks ago or whatever it was. You need to have a purpose for every dollar in your portfolio. And that purpose is not the same for every dollar, because some of your dollars are going to be spent next week, next year, the following year. Some of your dollars aren't going to be spent until you're 85, 90 years old. Those have different purposes. They should be invested differently. They should be supported by a different investment. Plan it out, strategically set it up so that you have the appropriate asset backing the appropriate spending need, appropriate liability, and you'll have a much better chance of not running out of money ever, and still have the ability to withstand financial undesirable emergencies.
Most emergencies, I think, are undesirable, but I mean, an emergency is going to be probably something that you never thought of. So, how do you build that? How do you do that? For those who are veteran listeners of this program,
they know where we're going.
They know exactly where we're going. But I do like to talk about this because it helps to hammer this point home. How is that designed? Let's just talk about that.
Well,
briefly.
Let's look at the underlying issues with different investments. Some investments have very high liquidity, very high stability of principal, but are not expected to do very well. They really make us comfortable when the markets are going down, and we can spend $1 because it's $1 and we know that it's going to be $1. It's not going to not be $1. Other investments have a much better rate of return potential, but along with that comes a lot of volatility. And it kind of comes like, well, I can't. Yeah, that gets a little sketchy, but I really like that potential rate of return. That doesn't mean you can't use them both. Mm-hmm. You have different, like I said before, you have different needs at different times. Use the assets that support the need that you have. I need to spend X amount of dollars this year, my year in retirement. Fine. Back that spending up with an asset that has stability of principal and liquidity. And then try to get as good of a rate of return as you can, given those first two factors. Mm-hmm. That is how you set it up. You time segment your investments to support the time that you need your distribution. And this is not going to sit well with somebody. You're going to spend principal and interest on that particular investment. If I need $50,000 to spend this year, that $50,000 should be in CDs and cash. And I'm going to spend all of it down to zero for this year. Mm-hmm. Oh, I need another $50,000 next year? Well, next year's still short term. I'm going to have another $50,000 in cash, CDs, things of that nature. I'm going to ladder those out for the time that I can not accept volatility. But as I get into the 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-year time horizon, I can accept some illiquidity. I can accept, illiquidity. I can get it right now. If I had a 5-year time horizon, if I knew I had, if I needed $50,000 a year and I had $250,000 sitting in treasuries and CDs, I'm probably getting low 4s, 4.1, 4.2% as of this taping. But the 5-year money, I know, I looked it up today. There are, oh my God, annuities that I could get a 5-year fixed contract with no fees, no ups, no extras, no cost as long as I stay in it for 5 years, and I can get 5%. I can guarantee it there. And that money would then be available for spending in year 6 and 7. So I can do these things. But that's how you set up the spending for the next 5, 6, 7 years. And then when I get out further than that, I can start accepting a little bit of volatility. Because even if it crashes tomorrow, it's got 6.5 years for it to recover. And I'm not talking about a pure stock market. I'm talking more of a 50-50, 40-60 balance portfolio. That'll work fine. A structured note, something of that nature, where I have very high confidence in what's going to happen. And I keep laddering out these investments until I get to, the spending I don't need for 10, 15 years. Okay, that can be in the stock market and try to achieve those 10+% average rates of return. Average doesn't happen every year. It happens over time. And lately we've had actually better than 10%. But what does that mean going forward? Does that mean we're going to regress to the mean? I don't know.
Probably.
Who knows?
I would think you would. I mean,
Are we in a new
oftentimes we do.
paradigm like we were in the late 90s? That's what they kept telling us. Then they didn't have paradigms to rub together.
Well, let's talk in just the short amount of time we have left, though. You're talking about building a plan that can last throughout that kind of thing potentially. That's what we shoot for. When somebody's looking though at some form of guaranteed income, we're often talking about trading a chunk of money in for a guaranteed stream of payments.
Right.
Just what do they need to be looking out for? Because these things are so complicated. We don't have time, to go over all of them. But what are the main things to be looking out for when somebody is purchasing some form of guaranteed income like that?
Well, what is the guaranteed income? How much am I putting in? How much am I getting out? And when is that income starting? I know I had somebody tell me about how great this one. It had a 12% payout. You put in $100,000, and then you would be able to get $12,000 a year out of it. 10 years later. So you put $100,000 in today at age 60, and at age 70 they'll pay you $12,000 a year for the rest of your life. Okay, is that a good deal? You're getting a 12% payout. According to them, it was a 12% return. No, it's not. Yeah. But 12% sounded pretty enticing until you realize, well, wait a minute, I'm giving up this $100,000 for 10 freaking years, and then I'm getting $12,000. It takes me 8 years after that. It takes me till 78 just to get my own money back.
Well, and what happens if you die before that? What happens if you die before that, though?
Well, so that's the second question. First is what's my guaranteed income, and when does it start happening, and what happens when I die? And you get those kind of things, and then you start looking at it in relation to when do I have the money available to me. Again, $1 in the future is not the same as $1 today. It's called present value, future value type payments. $1 today is worth more than $1 in the future. So we just have to know what's going on. Now, if you say that, okay, I'm going to put in $100,000 today, and I'm going to start taking, I'm 66, 67 years old, and I'm going to start taking, $6,800 a year out of this, and it's guaranteed for as long as I live. Come heck or high water, as long as I'm above ground and breathing, this thing is going to continue to pay. And assuming I trust the insurance company. This isn't a fly-by-night Shifting Sands of Iowa life insurance company. This is a good, solid company. Now I'm looking at it going, yeah, okay. If that is the worst thing that can happen, and it could maybe be better, but let's just go with the worst. If that's the worst, then that's an acceptable rate of return or acceptable cash flow, hey, That's fine. Having guaranteed income also helps us from an emotional, psychological point of view for the rest of the portfolio, where we can actually get some better rate of return. But in this case, look at what is the worst thing that the insurance company can do to you, because that's probably what they're going to do.
But if you're okay with that, then
it could be good.
Yeah, it may not be such a bad deal. So we're not. You would instruct people, don't look at the percentage when they talk about, because payout rate often looks like rate of return or sounds like rate of return.
Payout rate is not rate of return. Johnny, if you give me $100,000 and I give you $10,000 a year, what rate of return? And I do that for 10 years. What rate of return is that?
I got 0.
That's a 0% rate of return unless I give you back your $100,000 at the end of it. Okay,
right.
That's a 10% rate of return. But if all I'm doing is promising you $10,000 a year until you die, and you live 12 years, and so you got $120,000 back over 12 years, that's not that great of a rate of return. So we have to look at what is it we're trying to accomplish, what is going on. It's not that they're good or they're bad. It's a matter of, do they fit what you're trying to do, and are they appropriate for your situation? It's not for everybody.
And this is one of the reasons I'm talking about this here today, because there's a lot of confusion over things like this. But it's something that people don't talk about a lot. Living too long, it's kind of a funny risk to talk about, because obviously we all hope we get a lot of years to live. Nobody's rooting for a short retirement.
I just hope I'm healthy for those years that I'm living.
Well, yeah, and that covers the third leg of the stool, which is the long-term care. You hope you are. I mean, you don't want to be bedridden for 20 years. But from a planning standpoint, either way, those extra years of life have to be funded, which I think means having a foundation of guaranteed income, whether that's Social Security, a pension, if you are lucky enough to have that, or some form of, we'll call it protected income, I guess, from part of the portfolio. Income, cash flow that you can't outlive. And it also means keeping the money you need soon, as we just said, separated from the money that still needs to grow. Put your money, give your every dollar a job. That's your bucket strategy right there, actually.
It is, yeah. It's amazing how it boiled down to simplicity. It's give the money the appropriate job.
Yes, exactly.
Have it work for you for what you need it to do.
Yep.
And not every dollar is going to have the same purpose.
Right, and it's one of the most important things you can take away from the podcast. I talked about 3 things to take away from our podcast last week. That's another important thing. Make sure every dollar, we said that last week. And then there's some smaller things that can go along with it, managing taxes. We didn't get into that. RMDs, paying attention to things like Medicare premiums, whatever it is, all those things can help you keep you from unnecessarily draining more of your nest egg. By the way, if you'd like to go through any of this stuff, whether if you want to know if your own retirement income plan is prepared to deal with you living to maybe age 100. I don't know. You can reach out to the advisors at Lucia Capital Group. Their number, 800-644-1150, 800-644-1150. You can also visit us online, luciacap.com, LUCIACAP.com. Make sure you take a look at the downloadable guides we have there, including the Bucket Strategy Guide, Retirement Income Guide, Social Security. You hear me say this every week, but check them out. Check them out. They're up there free for you to download and to read. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast, Managing Your Financial Future, Apple Podcasts or Spotify, so each new episode shows up automatically. I think that's a very nice feature. You don't have to do any work at all. It's just there. We are out of time. I appreciate it. That's it for this week. My thanks to everyone involved in making this podcast happen. For Professor Rick Plum, Certified Financial Planner Professional, and, of course, accredited Wealth Management Advisor, I'm your podcast host, Johnny Dean. Thanks so much for listening. We'll talk with you all again next week. The information provided should not be considered specific tax, legal, or investment advice and is not specific to any individual's personal circumstances. Each taxpayer should seek independent advice from a tax professional based on his or her individual circumstances. These materials are provided for general information and educational purposes based upon publicly available information from sources believed to be reliable. The information in these materials may change at any time and without notice, and its accuracy cannot be guaranteed. There is no guarantee that any investment strategy will meet its stated objective. All investments involve risk, including potential loss of principal. A value averaging strategy does not guarantee a profit or protection from loss. You must consider your willingness to continue purchasing during periods of high or low price levels. The information provided is based on current laws, which are subject to change at any time. Lucia Capital Group is not affiliated with or endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any government agency. Social Security rules can be complex. For more information about Social Security benefits, visit the SSA website at ssa.gov or call 800-772-1213 to speak with an SSA representative. Fixed and variable annuities are suitable for long-term investing, such as retirement investing. Gains from tax-deferred investments are taxable as ordinary income upon withdrawal. Guarantees are based on the claims paying ability of the issuing company. Withdrawals made prior to age 59 and a half are subject to a 10% IRS penalty tax, and surrender charges may apply. Variable annuities are subject to market risk and may lose value. Before investing, carefully consider a variable annuity's investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses. To obtain a prospectus or summary prospectus which contains this and other information, call your financial advisor. Read the prospectus carefully before investing. Variable annuities with guarantees are available through optional riders at additional cost. CDs are FDIC insured up to $250,000 per depositor per insured bank for each account ownership category. Treasury securities are backed by full faith and credit of the U.S. government but are subject to inflation risk. Long-term care coverage policies and provisions may not be available in all states. Approval may be subject to the terms and conditions of the insurance company. Insurance product guarantees are subject to the claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company and are subject to their terms and conditions. IRA withdrawals will be taxed at ordinary income rates. Withdrawals prior to age 59 and a half may also be subject to a 10% penalty tax. Rick Plum is a registered representative with and securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor and member FINRA SIPC. LPL Financial Insurance License Number 0518721. LPLIA Insurance License Number OB91442.